Welcome to yet another edition of the Parent Portal Podcast. And of course, the Parent Portal Podcast is sponsored by SRC Private Primary School as a platform to provide practical parenting tips for the moms and dads out there. I am Alina Lewis, principal at SRC Private Primary, and joining me today is lead consultant of ALEMACSS Associates, Ms Alicia Halls. Miss, welcome.
Thank you very much.
And of course, happy and excited to be continuing the second part as we discuss primary school applications, the best fit. Because, of course, last week we would have taken time to talk about some very practical considerations: transport, finances, documentation, the more tactile elements of what we need to put in place. But today we're taking a moment to really chat about how to choose the best fit, because we could have the best fit looking at the parent and the needs of the parent. We could look at the best fit for the child's academic needs, and of course we could have the best fit for the child's developmental needs. So of course the big question that we want to start with is, when we start thinking about best fit for parents, what should parents be keeping in mind when choosing a primary school?
Well, leaning off of last week, I am going to say know your child and know his or her academic capabilities, know the struggles that he or she is facing, and know what you want to achieve as a parent with regards to his development from one stage to the next. Because primary school basically is starting a journey. And the beginning of each beginning, we would have a middle, we'll have an end. And as parents, we need to be mindful that the environment that you place your child in can affect or impact the beginning, the middle, and the ending. So with regards to putting things in perspective as to the best fit, as a parent, you need to be channeling your thought as to what is the ending going to be like for my son or my daughter. Because of his or her challenges, what is the ending going to be like? Is this school going to harness the development and support the challenges and help my child go from infant 1 to standard 5 with a smooth transition? And I'm going to say smooth. Notice I'm saying smooth, not perfect, because no journey is perfect. You're going to have some bumps and some bumps along the way. And but however, with regards to that whole administrative process, that whole learning process, is it that my daughter or son, is it that they're going to be accommodated? Or is it the education, will they be included in that whole process, or would they be feeling like an outcast, or would they be struggling? Would the journey be a rough and a hard one? So as parents, in choosing the best fit, you need to be mindful as what is the end going to look like.
And I think for parents, in best fit for them, it's also important to recognize as a parent what kind of relationship you want with your school. Because the parent is part of that very important circle of collaborators that support the child. So how do you want the communication flow? What sort of feedback do you want? What type of relationship do you want with your school administration? It's important to consider these, because what can end up happening is parents can walk into a situation where there is probably unrealistic expectations that as a parent I find the school should have, but the school didn't, and then everybody is the enemy, when it really was maybe a mismatch of expectations, desires, and how we want a situation handled. I think if this situation comes up, this is how it should be. The school didn't do it like that, we mad with the school. But did we, the parent, take time to figure out what was the school's policy, to really pay attention. What was the school's policy regarding this particular kind of situation? What is the school protocol for handling that particular kind of situation? So all of these we have to be mindful of in terms of even school culture, because whether public school or private school, yes, it's arguable that there are certain standardized experiences that can be expected, but at the same time, each school has its own culture and its own way of unfolding the experience. And so it's very important for parents to learn about that unfolding and to be able to determine to what extent does this align with my values, my family values, what the type of experiences I want for my child, how do I want people to speak to my child, because all of those things, when we add it up, contribute to that beginning, middle, and end that you were talking about. Do I have a problem if a teacher calls my child by like a negative stereotype or calls my child a name? Is that a major issue for me? Is it an issue that if a teacher is reprimanding my child and maybe he rests or she rests her hand on my child in an aggressive manner? You know, there's so many things that we could think of that may not necessarily contravene some sort of a major policy, but at the same time it impacts how we feel about our children and how we want our children handled. How do we want to be spoken to? How do we, the parents, want to be accommodated? And I think all of these are part of best fit for me, the parent.
Agreed, and I like I like the fact that you spoke about the culture, because there is something that we like to term cultural contradiction, and if you are mindful of a contradiction with regards to your belief and your whole expectation and your norms, your values, your whole belief system, why do you have your child in that environment again?
Yeah.
Because just as a parent, you would be going into that internal contradiction as to, oh my God, he's exposed to this and this is happening and that is happening and the other is happening in that environment. You need to be mindful that this is the environment that you chose. And your child is going to spend the next 7 years of his or her life in this environment, and that environment is going to contribute to the shaping of your child mind, whether you like it or not. So if it is that you find as a parent, as Ms. Lewis was saying, that here what, I don't want this, I don't want that shaping, I don't want my child to be contradicted in the values, in the culture, in my upbringing, I want them in a different environment, then you need to make a different choice.
Yeah, and let me share maybe an unpopular opinion and say to parents, encourage parents, be fair to your child. Because sometimes the decision about what school we send our children to is based not on a best fit from a practical point of view, but it's based on the fact that I went there and Granny went there and great Granny went there, and so you have to go there. And it sort of doesn't matter what you come across. You're going there because that's where your family went, or whatever. That's where the neighbor going. Yeah, so we definitely don't want to just send our child to a school just so that we could keep up with the neighbors, the Joneses, the whoever. Miss, you were smiling. Why were you smiling?
I was smiling because I know of situations where parents would have made that decision to keep up with the Joneses, or just maintain that whole family tradition of everybody go to one school, and then you have the children just falling apart, and they would have to go and make the transfer and remove the child, and then they realize that other schools are filled, and eventually most of them may end up in the private school, because at the end of the day that may be the best fit.
I understand. So there's also the best fit for the developmental needs of the child. What can you share in this regard?
Now we have challenges, whether it be medical challenges, physical challenges that would affect that whole development process. We know that children are to reach milestone at certain age, and we're talking about academic milestone, and we're talking about physical milestone, we're talking about sensory milestone, we're talking about that whole flow from one stage to the next. And we have children who have challenges. We have children who have challenges. Our dream one day as educators and persons in that whole fraternity is that all children be assessed and accepted and able to learn in the manner which is best fit for them. But the reality is not all schools can accommodate all children. And I say this, and I know that probably some of my colleagues in the education system would say, no, why are you saying something like that? We have this whole all-inclusive education. I am part of the system, and I am not going to fool parents. I am not going to say something that is not true. Sometimes children face challenges in one school that they may not face in another school. And it's simply because the school is designed in such a way in terms of you're looking not just, let us look at the physical aspect of the school. Some children cannot climb stairs. There are schools that the standard 3, standard 4 are on the upper level, and they have to go up to the upper level. They are not accommodated there, and we need to look at those things. We have children with disabilities, we have children with academic challenges that you don't have a remediation teacher in that environment. You don't have somebody to accommodate, and there would be a process sometimes where some children are accommodated with student aid to help the children throughout the learning process. However, generally speaking, that child and its challenges can be a distraction to his or herself or to the wider class. And because of that, that environment may hinder that child development, simply because that school does not accommodate or has not yet been outfitted with the accommodation to suit that child's needs. And as parents, we need to inquire, we need to investigate if we have children with challenges and find schools that are the best fit.
I think also when we start thinking about developmental needs, it's important to identify to what extent does the school or would the school be able to collaborate in support of your child's developmental needs. For example, at SRC Private Primary, we have, a vast range of different types of students that would come into us, and one such student would have been an infant who was challenged by developmental delays. And so when the parent came in for consultation, the parent was very open in explaining that his professional support at the hospital made it very clear to her that if she goes to a public school, she would have to put him on medication, because from a sensory point of view, he can't be in an environment where there's a lot of noise and there's a lot of aggravation and touching and hypersensitivity and all of that. He would have to go on medication. This is a 5-year-old. So when she was looking into schools, while she would have gone around to a lot of public schools, her concern was she knew she sent him to public school or large school, because I believe last week we talked about size of schools and the importance of understanding what it means. She would have to put her child on medication. She didn't want to do that. So that when she came to us at SRC Private and she realized that we were a small school, she saw how the classroom was set up and how things were done. Her child has been able to come in and get well integrated, and he is not on medication. His doctors did not need to put him on. He goes periodically to be evaluated. He works with a speech therapist. We collaborate. So when mommy goes to the speech therapist and she has a meeting there, she comes back and books a meeting with us. And then we discuss the feedback from the speech therapist. We provide her with documentation that she can take back to her therapist. So there is a collaboration. That is important to her. because in order to make sure that all of the needs of her child is being met, she has to be able to work with these different service providers. So then as a parent, a child may not necessarily have a developmental delay or have some other sort of a special need challenge, but there may be some collaboration on one level, whether it's with a therapist, whether it's with what. Listen, life happens. There is nothing perfect about life, and we deal with all sorts of ins and outs when we're working with supporting our children. And so when we start thinking then of the developmental needs, we want to think, when I enrolled with this school, to what extent is the system of the school able to support with these existing needs that my child may have in order to ensure that there is that sort of holistic support. Yeah? Any thoughts to share on that, Miss?
No, I totally agree. I totally agree because you see, accommodating children is supposed to be the primary goal of the whole education system. And wherever your child can grow, develop, and achieve their best academic or let us look at holistic development. I think that is the environment.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, you want to look at the best fit for the child's academic needs and looking at how does my child need to learn, in what ways do my child need to learn. And this is outside of special need diagnosis. This is just in recognizing that every child is different. And because every child is different, you want to make sure that we're in a system that offers various patterns, types of learning, different types of instructional strategies being employed, is able to really attend to the various needs of the learners within the classroom, so that we could make sure that whether the child gifted, whether the child mainstream, whether the child is a bit slower, whatever the child, whatever category the child may find him or herself, that the system and the type of academic support being provided by the school is appropriate for your child, because your concern as the parent is not necessarily the school. Your concern is your child, and you have to make sure that wherever you choose to put your child, it is the best fit for the child, academic needs, his or her developmental needs, as well as your needs as a parent. So, Ms. Even, as we bring this second part of the podcast focusing on primary school applications and choosing the best fit, do you have any closing remarks you'd like to share with the listeners?
No, as you, I just want to support your last point with regards to that whole academic going beyond the chalk and board teaching.
Yeah.
You know, it is still part of our system. It is still part of our system. I really applaud teachers within the public school system who become so innovative, and they realize that there are different types of learning, and you know, they really go out of their way to bring that whole visual aspect, you know, that, and you know, they really do the extra. But we need to be mindful that the average public school teacher has 26, 27, sometimes 30 children in their classroom. And with that being said, parents need to do a proper investigation as to, is it my child is getting that whole 100% academic intervention?
Yeah.
And if the answer is no, they may need to look at alternatives.
Yeah, and just as I say to parents, tell yourself the truth.
Yeah.
You know, it's not always about the glitter. It's about recognizing what your child needs.
Yeah.
And while it may seem like a great projection to only think about the great case scenario, the reality is that that is not reality for every single parent. Every child's level of best is different.
It is not even the reality for the masses.
Right.
Because if we look at the children who excel, they are in the minority. And we would ask ourselves that, I mean, education is so readily available. We should have our top scoring children with regards to primary school level. Look at in the, let us say, 70s to 100%, but that's not the case, right? We have children struggling, and parents need to be mindful of, and you would hear parents say that, I don't know what happened. He started off, he was a bright child, and I don't know what happened along the way. And if we're looking at academic success, sometimes we need to understand our children and be mindful. I know that one of the topics that we would talk on is that whole financial preparation.
Yes.
We may need to put things in place so that child could have the experience suited for them.
Definitely. So we're glad that parents were able to join us for yet another edition of the Parent Portal podcast, where today we were chatting about primary school applications and identifying and choosing the best fit. Ms. Halls, thank you so much for coming in and joining parents. Thank you for listening in. We trust that the discussion is one that was insightful. Be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe if you're listening to this on YouTube. For more information, you can visit the ALEMACSS and Associates Facebook page if you want to learn more about the work that Ms. Halls does through that institute. To learn more about SRC Private Primary, you can visit online using the address www.studentremediationcenter.com. And of course, be sure to stay in touch through social media. We're happy to hear from you and to learn how the Parent Portal podcast impacts and influences and inspires. So thank you so much for joining us. Until next week, Friday, have a great one.